Hello, everybody.
Cool.
Do we have enough chairs? Enough for now? Okay. Welcome, and it's just a few minutes after 7. We'll go ahead and start the meeting. And if everyone would join me to stand for the pledge, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fred, we'll start with you. You can introduce yourself and run across the. You got new faces out there. They don't know who we are.
I'm Clerk, Parcel, Councilman.
Byron-MRB, Councilman.
Candace Hansel.
Christy Murphy, Town Clerk.
Jeff Thompson, Councilman.
Nathan Knickerbocker, Councilman.
Thank you. Christy, what were the minutes that you sent out for approval?
February 14th and 3/13.
Okay, we're still catching up on some of those minutes, so if those went out, we just need the approval of, what's the first date?
February 14th
February 14th. If there's any corrections that need to be made?
and March 13th.
I have a question on the first page under sewer. I don't know if I lost something in front of you. It says meeting scheduled, then it stops. Councilman Thompson made a motion. Are we missing something there? Or?
Probably the date then? Maybe that's the February 14th?
Correct.
February 14th?
I'll
No,
double check on
it's
that.
in the wording. I don't have mine right here for that.
I didn't have
It's
it.
about 2/3 of the way down the page of the sewer, of the heading of sewer.
You don't have that one?
I didn't print them.
Okay,
I
after-
emailed them all this morning.
Okay.
Can I pass it out to Christy later?
What's that?
Oh, you might have it.
Can I give it to Christy later? We'll take care of it.
Yeah, I think it's just missing the date.
Yeah, that's what I'm
It's-
thinking too.
Okay. So we need to add the date.
Candy, I
Yes.
did pull it up. Fred, are you talking about how it says, under sewer, it says, Scott Mattison from MRB Group gave an update on an informational meeting schedule, and then
Yes.
that's where it stops?
Yes.
It does further state Councilman Thompson made a motion to hold an informational meeting at the South Byron Fire Department Rec Hall on February 28, 2024 at 7 p.m. So that's the date, I believe it's referring to. It's like the next level.
Okay, I followed it. Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't notice that when I was reading it.
So was there any other questions on that?
Well, I questioned it, it's in the minutes, but maybe we should bring it up later. How did the meeting go on March 18th with the firemen?
It's in the,
Okay.
yep, down at the reports, yep.
Okay. I'm good.
Motion to approve the minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the February 14th minutes.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. And the other minutes were 313. Any questions or concerns on those minutes? If not, a motion to approve them as written.
I will, unless Fred looks like he's reading. Good. And I make a motion to accept the March 13th meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Minutes.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we're catching up on the official minutes. Those will be posted on the website as soon as we can get them to our poster. Number 4 on the agenda is on water improvement benefit area number 1, a little update from Scott Mattison from MRB Group. I'm not sure where Scott is. Oh, there he is. Hi, just a quick overview at this point, if you would, please.
Sure. So contract A is currently finishing up Merrill Road. They will have East Bird Road, and North Byron Road to finish as far as water main installation goes. I believe they have started to water up some of the areas as well. As far as contract B goes, at this point, 99% of the water main is in. They just need to make the connection on 33 to the town of Bergen. So they have started to chlorinate and disinfect for health sampling. And they're kind of working backwards. They finished on 33 and Old State Road, so they will start there with the disinfection and the service installation and work their way backwards to where they started. So that is where both of those currently are. Anybody got any questions regarding that?
Okay, and just as an update, in addition to that, on April 2nd, we close on the new ban that we have to get, and on April 3rd, we close on the old one as we continue on through financing. Correct, Lori?
Yeah.
So that's some business for next week for that project. The rest of the evening, or the next thing on the agenda, MRB Group has agreed to come and give us a brief overview of some of the grant opportunities that are out there. There was some discussion after our sewer meeting the end of last month about opportunities that we might be able to coordinate with the possibly the sewer project, or at least thinking forward in the future for revitalization efforts, etc. We have to start in someplace, so the first place is to know what those opportunities are at this point, and that will ebb and fade as time goes on, but if we know what they are now, we can at least get started on some of the groundwork that we need as a town to do so, and then collaborate with design and stuff like that as we go through, depending on what we want to do. So with that, we have from MRB Group, we have,
So
I can't see Scott.
you have myself, Scott Mattison from the MRB Group, Lori Fox, who's a grant administrator, and then tonight we also have Matt Horn, who is the Director of Municipal Services. So I believe, are you going to make the presentation? Lori and Matt will make the presentation, kind of run through all the different programs and the ins and outs. We can talk about our experience and answer any questions you guys have.
Well, thank you for having us. Everybody here is the governor, all these announcements, there's all this grant money out there, and so, we've been coordinating with the town to see which programs are out there, see what your needs and wants are. So we have kind of a quick overview of some certain grants that I know you guys potentially are interested in, and then as other things come up, we can certainly discuss future grants. One thing I wanted to mention, grant, you can't just apply for a grant the day it comes out. If it comes out and you haven't started planning ahead, it's too late to apply. So you really need to start planning well before the grant is released, because every grant is different, every grant has different requirements, every grant has different things that you need to do to apply or afterwards that you need to know about. So part of this process is not only just looking at the grants, but prioritizing the projects, because the town already has the sewer project, they have the water project going. Most of these grants are reimbursement, so you need to have the money up front so that then, to pay for the entire project. So these are all the types of things that we need to keep in mind as we're looking at these grants. The different eligibility, you may be eligible to apply for a grant, but you may not be very competitive. So those are all the things that we look at too, because yes, we can apply for that, we're eligible, but then when you look at the scoring or look at the points, we look, well, we're only going to score 10 points out of 100, then it's probably not in the town's best interest to do an application. So these are all the types of things that we'll work with the town and see where we want to go and what we want to do. And again, we talk about the reimbursement. 99% of these grants are you've got to pay for it up front, and then you'll get money back. So just a lot of things that we need to think about. Anything I forgot, man?
No, I think that's really good.
Okay. And then I just wanted to, Scott, we already talked about this, but these are the two current grants that we have. Two big ones, the disinfection project, or the wastewater project, which has disinfection and general upgrades. We started out with a planning grant that we got for the town. We got $1 million in the WQIP, which is a water quality improvement program. And then we got last year a WIBA grant, Water Improvement Infrastructure Act, for $2.7 million. We get low interest financing also, but there's also some other potentials for that project that we're working on now. There's potential additional BIL money, which is a bipartisan infrastructure law, And they just announced this enhanced WIA that we're working on, trying to get a little bit more money. And we can also apply for additional WQIP money this year, so we can talk with the town about that. So, you know, it's a large project, but we got quite a bit of money for it. And then the water project that Scott was just talking about, you know, we got 5.3 million in grant funding and then 6.3 in low interest financing. So those are two projects that are going on now. So that's just something to keep in mind as we're looking forward to see what we want to do, because we've still got to make sure you can continue with those projects.
Great. Well, thank you all. Thanks for having us. This Smart Growth Comprehensive Planning Grant program is one that's fairly recent, last 3 or 4 years. We know that I think your last comprehensive plan was developed in 2019 or approved in 2019. And so that's, in terms of most communities we work with, that's very up to date inside of 5 years, which is fantastic. That's right where you want to be. And we'll talk to you more about that comprehensive plan and how it makes you more competitive for some of these projects. What the state wants to see is that this isn't somebody's just one-off idea, that it's part of an overarching strategy, part of a forward look for the town. So having that comprehensive plan is great. I did note in your comprehensive plan, you've identified a bunch of zoning and development regulation updates that you saw. I don't know how far down the road you've made it on any of those, but in addition to the comprehensive plan funding, inside of this same pot of money, they will fund zoning and development regulation updates. And so the maximum award is $100,000 for the program for a zoning update, even for a comprehensive plan update or a zoning update in a town your size. You'll be below that, obviously, but that's the maximum you could apply for. There is a 10% match requirement. This is part of, and you'll hear us say this a couple of times tonight, what the state has done in the last 10 years is taken anything that they can remotely consider economic development and jammed it all into one big grant release. I don't know, Lori, how many programs are in the CFA, but it's the 30 plus, right? And so all of those are typically released around the end of May, and they're typically due around the end of July. It's to make sure people like Lori can't go on vacation at all. May, June, July is typically just dealing with the grant applications. So around May, this program will come out. For example, in the town, if you did want to update your comp plan, which you probably don't need to do because it's relatively new. You had something, Supervisor?
To be honest, my belief is that yes, it needs an update at this point, only because of the release in 2019 was just prior to the big solar boom.
Yeah.
And some of that stuff doesn't directly relate back to how we need to move forward at the town. So it could be an opportunity to look at that.
There's also, I mean, you adopted it immediately prior to COVID, which in a lot of communities where we do encourage you, if you haven't done an update since COVID, it's something to look at, particularly if you can get 90% funding to do it. What we've seen with a lot of these communities is, particularly if you apply for and win the grant for the comp plan, then you're pretty secure to apply for the grant to update your zoning. They almost go hand in glove, following one another, but there's no requirement either way if you wanted to do just one or the other. So it is going to be, we'll know more. The information we're giving you now is based essentially on the 2023 guidance.
Yep.
So we'll know more in May, likely end of May, about what the 2024 guidance looks like. What we tell communities is it rarely moves around too much. But as of 2023, there was a 10% match requirement, and then they do require that you work with MWBE firms, minority and women-owned business firms, for a piece of the work, veteran-owned firms for a piece of the work. But that's something that you deal with in procurement. So it's a good program. It's relatively new. They're really encouraging communities to go after it because they want to see these strategic plans updated with some frequency. Questions about that program? Great. What's next, Lori? Yeah, that's Lori.
Okay, so the supervisor had mentioned at one point that potentially maybe some sidewalk and some mobility type of grants. So this is one of the programs that we thought of. It's the Department of Transportation Alternatives Program. There's about 14 different categories or subcategories within this grant that you can apply for. So I know you kind of did mention sidewalks. I think if you do want to move forward with a grant like this, we have to sit down and kind of really narrow down what you want to do, figure out which category it fits into. But there's, depending on which subcategory you go into, you could get anywhere from $500,000 to $5 million, depending on the project. It's a 20% match, and again, this is all based on the previous. Now, this grant comes out about every other year. So we just, actually in '23, it was just out, so we're expecting it to come out next year at some point. So if, like I said, the planning before, if you guys, if you would want to apply for this, we would probably want to start looking at things in fall of this year, just to try to get ready, figure out what project you really want to do, narrow things down, get concept plans, get cost estimates, that kind of thing. But it is a nice program. It'll support, bicycle, pedestrian, multi-use pass. It does the sidewalks. There's the safe routes to schools. So there's a lot of different opportunity within that, depending on the needs of the town. So we can definitely, work with you guys if you do think you want to apply for this project. And again, you can even apply for some planning from design, construction, infrastructure related for non-driver safety, access to public transportation, safe routes to schools. So if you need sidewalks within a 2-mile radius of a school, that's a great program. We do a lot with communities on that one. And, again, if you did update your comp plan, that would help with this grant too, because we would always refer back to the comp plan and say it does mix with local planning initiatives. So it's a nice little program, but again, we want to start planning sooner than later just to see where you guys are at. Any questions on that one?
When we talk about cost sharing here, are these programs straight, you have to come up with this cash, or do they allow for in-kind services as well?
Depends, every program's different. So I think for TAP, I'm trying to remember, I think it's cash. I don't know that you can do in-kind. I think they need to bid everything out.
Yeah, but keep in mind, some of these, when we talk about the cost share, it doesn't always necessarily mean that you guys need to come up with 10 or 20% of the cash. It is in certain cases possible that in-kind services, whether that's through the highway department or some other way, you can contribute through labor or things like that.
Right, and again, with each grant, we would look at that, and we would develop that as part of our budget, which with every grant, you need to put a budget in and tell, give a cost estimate and show where your match is coming from. So if we are going to do, like if this grant does allow, force the town, maybe the highway department can do some of the work, we can account for that when we apply. So
Administration.
sometimes, yeah, it depends on the grant, sometimes administration, but again, that's why, each time when the guidance comes out, we look at it and see, okay, what's eligible, what can we put in the budget, and look at that, and then we can decide to move forward.
So pro-housing communities, the state has, I think you all see this in the news a lot, globally we're seeing a pretty serious housing crisis, and what New York State has attributed our part of the housing crisis to is a significant lack of product, a lack of supply. And so what the state's trying to determine is what's the reason for that? Why is there limited supply? And what they're working to do is kind of study everybody's development regulations to see, hey, are we inadvertently standing in the way of development? Are there opportunities to streamline our zoning processes, our development review processes to support the development of more housing? So they put this pro-housing communities program out there. Effectively, what it turns out to be is really a tool for the state to collect data on your community and understand what's happening in the market and why is it happening. Is your market growing? If so, is that a result of really strong development regulations, proactive development regulations? And similarly, if not, is it because the development regulations aren't up to snuff? So we know, you can't compel developers to come to your community. It's got to pencil out. It's got to make sense for them. So really all the state can do at this point is encourage you to collect the data and encourage you to sort of pledge that, that you'll take a look at housing projects in earnest when they come to you. So this program effectively, it's not really competitive in that they're not going to limit the number of communities that they designate. They'd love to designate every community as a pro-housing community, but there are some boxes to check. So what they want to understand is how much housing has been developed in your community in the last year, the last 3 years. There's a target for growth. In the upstate, that target is 1% over 3 years. And in downstate, it's 3% over 1 year, so it gets pinky. But, so what they ask you to do is review your development data and say, have we hit that growth target? If you have, you literally just fill out, it's a little more complex, but you fill out a sheet that shows all of your permit data and give them some information on your zoning, turn it in, 90 days later, you're a pro-housing community. If you haven't grown by that targeted amount, then they ask that you pass a resolution saying, we encourage housing. And that we're going to evaluate housing projects in earnest when they come across our desk. The state takes 90 days to review all of this. They have not hit that target, by the way. We've had plenty of communities who've submitted much more than 90 days ago, and it just hasn't happened. I don't think they were built up. Hard to believe that the state wouldn't plan ahead for this, but I think they just got a bigger influx of applications than they anticipated. So why you would do this? I originally was couching this as sort of bonus points on grant applications, but that's not real. I was corrected by a Department of State representative at an event a couple of weeks ago. It's what they're calling preference, which is to say that when all of the grant applications come in for programs like downtown revitalization, which we'll talk about, New York Forward, New York Main Street, or Market New York, which is a tourism promotions grant, that all of the pro-housing communities are going to be pushed to this side of the table and scored. And if everybody scores high enough on this side of the table, then those communities are just going to get awarded the funds. And if there's money left over after that, they'll look at everybody else. And if there's not, they won't. And so given kind of the low bar here, because you're not being asked to do much more than submit some data and agree that you'll review housing projects in earnest when they come to you, we're encouraging communities to make this application, just so you can get in this pile and not get relegated to this pile. So the state has a format that they want you to submit this data in. They look at 3 years worth of, 3 complete years worth of, so we'll go back 23, 22, and 21, and look at your permit data to see what new housing starts look like over those 3 years. We'll determine if between the close of 2020 and the start of 2024, you grew by the targeted amount. How many units did we have at the end of 2020? How many units did we have at the beginning of 2024? If you hit the target, then submit it and we're done. If you didn't hit the target, then you pass a resolution saying we're going to look at these projects when they come across our desk. What the goal is here is that the governor's used phrases like the weaponization of seeker, and there's communities out there who kind of built their zoning codes to keep housing development out. This doesn't happen. Usually in upstate New York, we're trying to attract housing development. We're trying to encourage folks to invest in our communities, but that's not always the case. So really what they're trying to do is just get you on record to say, yes, we encourage housing development. Your zoning still holds. You don't have to do anything different with your zoning. All you're doing is reporting your zoning. You don't have to make any changes. You're not mandated to approve any housing development that comes across your desk. But they just want you on record as saying, hey, we encourage housing developers to come here and take a look at what we got. Questions about that one?
I have a question.
Yes?
Back to the grant.
Yes?
With the water,
It seems like all the grants for water are stuck at $5 million. Is that just common?
Well, so the grants for water, especially the program that the town typically uses, which is USDA Rural Development, has different income thresholds, and then they'll fund them based on percentages.
So are they all, I read the paper, everything, are they all stuck at $5 million?
The rural development is not stuck at 5 million, but typically it's pretty hard to get more than 5 million because that kind of exhausts most of the grant funds for the entire state for the whole year. Other programs do have certain thresholds, which are probably like the EFC programs, have actual dollar amounts. Theoretically, rural development will tell you you could get an unlimited grant amount up to whatever that percentage is, but they just don't physically have it. So that's why we try to, when we come up with a project or work with the town to come up with a project, we try to keep it within a certain size to maximize the amount of grant money that we obtain. We know that we're not going to get more than that $5 million, so we try to make that $5 million 75% of the project cost so that we've gotten the most that we can for each of the projects.
Good question.
Good question.
New York Main Street. This is a grant program where dollars are awarded through the town for a private sector project, right? For a private owner project. The program is intended to take buildings that are not in the greatest shape and get them in a shape marketable, right? So this falls under that consolidated funding application program. It's going to get announced in May. It's going to get awarded in, it's going to be due in July. We left one part out in this long chain of events with the CFA. They released the application in May. You turn it in at the end of July, and then whenever they feel like it, they'll come in. It used to be December was the date. We knew the first week of December. They bring us all down to Albany and do a big game show and a big release. They don't do that anymore. They kind of dribble it out to try and get a few press releases out of it. And so we can't tell you when it's going to be awarded, but we can tell you in the vast majority of the cases that we're showing you today, you can't spend any money until you have a grant contract, right? And that's really going to be for the consolidated funding application stuff. That's going to be next year at this time, right? March-ish of next year. So I always tell people that big cardboard check that Governor Hochul brings to town, that doesn't cash. Don't try to take that to the bank. It doesn't work. So anyway, back to New York Main Street. If you've got some buildings that are privately held and could use some work, then this is a good program for that. The maximum award is $500,000. There's a couple of different categories. There is technical assistance. What technical assistance is, hey, I got a building, it seems like it's got a lot of problems, but I can't really tell you what the problems are or what it's going to cost to fix it. And so what the technical assistance program will allow you to do is have an architect and an engineer go through that building and prepare not like construction level plans, but a building assessment that says, all right, generally the building envelope is sound or it's not. Needs a roof or it doesn't. Needs windows or it doesn't. Plumbing, HVAC, those kinds of things. A technical assessment report will prepare you for a later construction application. On building renovations, that's exactly what it sounds like. We got a building, we got a relatively good understanding of what repairs need to be made, so we're going to make application to repair it. Now, the technical assistance program is typically around a $25,000 award. The building renovation program is typically a couple $100,000 for a building. All of these vary depending upon how many residential units you're going to create, how many square feet of commercial space you might create in any given building. And then there's this program that they call Downtown Anchor. And Downtown Anchor is a real special building that's going to set our downtown off. It's on a key corner, it's an icon, something like that. And that's where you get a more significant award up to the $500,000. This does require, this has a lot of hinky requirements. It is part of that CFA process. What they require you to do is have a public hearing to determine what buildings people have interest in, right? Or, I'm sorry, you have to have a public meeting to determine what buildings people have interest in. So you have a public meeting, folks come in, they pitch you, they say, this is my building, this is how many residential units I want to create, this is how much square footage of commercial I want to create. The town board reviews all of that, decides, all right, this is the application package we're going to make. 123 Main Street, 234 First Street, and 345 Third Street. These are the buildings where we've got an interest in. Then you have to have a public hearing that says, these are the buildings we're going to apply for. It's important, that's an important step, because what tends to happen, not always, what tends to happen in these programs is you'll put in an application for 2 or 3 buildings. The building owners get really excited when we're making up the application, and then when we get the award and they find out now they really do have to write that check for the whole thing up front, we usually get a couple of folks to back off. The state will be pretty flexible to move this money around between buildings, but only between buildings that you had a public hearing on. If you didn't have a public hearing on it, then you basically just lose that money if the developer doesn't step up. So we're going to prepare, as part of this application, we prepare a target map. Again, they don't want one building over here and one building down here and one building 2 towns over. They want it to be in a nice tight grouping. If we're going to do multiple buildings, we don't have to do multiple buildings, but if we're going to do multiple buildings, they want some logic behind it, right? We thought about this is going to make an impact in one area. So we'll want to show that target map. You're going to, again, pass a resolution. We're going to ask you to do seeker up front and to engage. If these are historic buildings, most typically the buildings we work with on New York Main Street are historic buildings. If you're going to be doing construction, then we have to get the state historic preservation folks involved to make sure that if you're proposing to replace the windows, that your replacements are, I use windows because that's the one they always come after, that your replacements are like, that they address the historical character of the building. Or did I mess that up too much?
No, that's perfect, yeah.
Questions about, oh, good.
No, I was going to say, it's a nice program, but there are a lot of requirements in there, so it's just something you definitely want. And I think you really need to have that meeting with potential property owners so that they're aware of all the requirements, because you have to go through SHPO. We did one of these projects with a community, and the owner wanted to replace all the windows, like Matt was saying. Well, SHPO said, we don't want you to replace them. We want you to fix them because they're all historic and whatnot. So there's a lot of requirements, and I think that's just important that if you do move forward with something like this, that the property owners are aware of all the different requirements and everything that they, all the things they have to do. There's a lot of environmental testing and other things that have to be done too.
What a lot of communities do with this one is you do an all-call, right? We put something on the website, or we put something out in the newspaper that says, hey, everybody who's got an interest in this, bring us your ideas. Then the town board kind of prioritizes them. You might actually go knock on some doors in case you got a leaner, one of those buildings is doing this, but the building owner didn't show up. Maybe knock on their door and say, hey, there's grant money out here that might straighten this thing up. And so get as many people in the room as you can so that you've got a lot of choices and a lot of commitments. And like I said, this one will be due in July, but if after tonight you go home and you chew on it a little bit and you say, hey, I think we know some buildings, we want to get started right now so that we're not standing around in July trying to figure it out. Because all those, that sea of initials we threw at you there, seeker and SHPO and all those things, they take time, right? And so from that July 31st deadline, or whatever the date ends up being, we got to back it up for the town board to make its determination sometime in July. We got to back it up from there to make sure that the state has seen it 60 or so days before that. So that's already before the state even announces it, right?
Right.
And so we want to be thinking about that as early as we can. Otherwise, Lori ends up coming to a lot of town board meetings on July 31st at 8 a.m. so we can get those resolutions done just ahead of the deadline. New York Forward. So New York Forward, a bunch of years ago, I think 7 or 8 years ago, the state released this program called Downtown Revitalization Initiative. It was a $10 million grant to fix up downtowns around the state. They did 1 award per region. We're here in the Finger Lakes region now. So they did 1 award per region. Well, they got good press out of it, so they wanted to do a round 2 and a round 3, and they kept going. Well, eventually you run out of places that can soak up $10 million, right? And so what they figured out was they were locking out a lot of smaller communities out of these programs. So last 2 years ago, they created a program called New York Forward. New York Forward is what we call the mini DRI, the mini Downtown Revitalization Initiative. It's built really well for villages, for hamlets. Canandaigua or Geneva or somebody puts in, they're going to be competing against Rochester, they're going to be competing against these bigger communities. You'll just be competing against communities in your weight class, and so you want to, so New York Forward is a good program for that. They give typically 2, maybe 3 awards per year. Those awards will total up to $10 million, so it could be 2 $4.5 million awards in each region. And so the interesting part about this one is if there are public projects that you want to address, I'll just be candid with you up front, this program is not built for underground infrastructure, right? So if you need water and sewer or stormwater done in your hamlet or in your downtown, the state's not going to like that. They need something to take a picture next to, for this program. And so only Scott takes pictures with sewer lines and water lines, but the governor wants to be standing next to a building or a park or something like that. So if you've got buildings, parks, streetscape, we can do good streets, sidewalks, curbs, those kinds of things, all that stuff can be addressed. In this program, there is no public sector match required. So if you do have parks, streets, street lights, those kinds of things, you can get those done at no cost to you. Those are 100% funded on the public side. On the private side, they do ask for a match. I will say, when we say no match required and 50 or 60% match required on private projects, anything you do bring to the table, if you do put in a little money, it makes your application that much more competitive. So it's just something that we think through with you before you go into application. This one is due at the end of September typically. So this is where they make sure, since Lori didn't get to go on vacation all summer, they won't let her go on vacation in the fall either. Because it's typically released right after that CFA is due. It's released around August. You don't get any time to put it together. It's only a couple of months to put it together. So it's another one of those things where if you want to apply for hamlet revitalization or downtown revitalization money, you need to start thinking about it right now. We're working with communities right now on their applications. You want to be able to demonstrate, even though it's a $4.5 million award, you want to be able to demonstrate you got a lot more projects than that. Because this one is a little weird. When they announce that you are the winner, they will take that application you gave with all those projects you listed out that you wanted done, and they just throw it away, and then they bring everybody back around the table and they say, all right, now what are we really going to do with this money? And some of those projects from the application will make it back in, and some of them won't. And what they really want to determine is, hey, you said you want to build a sidewalk. Does that sidewalk really go somewhere? Do you have enough money to really get the sidewalk done, or to get the park done, or to get the lighting done, whatever? You cannot use it for a single project, right? So they're not going to make a $4.5 million award for one thing. This has to take an area that's struggling a little bit and turn it around. That's what they're trying to do. So there will be a letter of intent request that'll come out late summer. Say, hey, we're interested in applying. You put in your letter of intent. That's supposed to be the time when the state tells you, yes, this looks like a reasonable thought process. What they really do is just say, everybody check the box, everybody come in and apply. And then from there, you have to have at least one public meeting to discuss the projects. And then the application is typically due in September. So it's a good program. It's new. It's something that's high value, and it can get a lot of things done. If you're going to do this, that pro-housing communities thing, we want to get done right now, because A lot of those Finger Lakes communities have done that, which means they're all going to be in this part of the table, and you'll be over here hoping for it, right? So that's New York Forward. Questions on that? I know we're throwing a ton at you, so.
Have you seen New York Forward and TAP work hand in hand on bigger projects? Or?
So since New York Forward is new, it's just now happened, where you have you seen some examples of that?
I think communities that have gotten the DRI or the New York Forward tend to, you need additional funding, so you're doing a ton of projects. Like in Seneca Falls, they're doing some big DRI projects, then we're applying for other projects, so we're kind of in tandem going, okay, these are what's going to happen with the DRI, now let's see what else we can build off of that too. So it's you know, if you can get the New York Forward, it's a great place to springboard off of and just get additional stuff.
Yeah, that process I was talking about, where they throw your application away and start over, the end product of that is what they call a strategic investment plan. And that's going to list out every project that they think is good in your community, whether they fund it or not with the New York Forward money. And then you take that report and apply for every other grant program and say, all right, we've had sidewalks in the New York Forward application, they didn't get funded, but they're listed here as a priority. Now we're a priority for TAP, Restore New York, and those other programs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good question. There is some of that too in all these programs. Can one grant match another grant? Can you stack them? Those kinds of things. And the question or the answer is always it depends.
Right.
It depends on
some of them you can, some of them can't. Depends if it's federal money, state money, this money, that money. So you know, it's definitely things we could look at, but something to think about.
But there's something there, I mean, in my head, there's like a flow chart that you're going down through here. And the first thing would be to get that zoning done so that when you do that referendum for the housing, you already have your zoning the way you want it. So we're going to encourage housing to come in the way that we want it to come in. And then you're checking that box so that you're in the good pile for those grants if you're going to do this forward. And then the forward bleeds into TAP because that seems to be the big money. And then you can kind of go down through that way.
There's definitely progression that's ideal. The trick is the timing is all, year. So wherever you can pair them up, the better.
Yeah, like you just put together is, we're here to give you an idea of everything that's out there. If the town has an idea of a project or comes up with an idea of a project, then we can do exactly what Josh has just said and run you through, here's our recommendations from start to finish to get you in a good position to get this done with whatever grants it's going to take.
And remember, this doesn't all happen at one time. It has to start.
Right.
Basically, that's why I asked MRB group here, so they realized that there's a large process that's involved for any revitalization of growth. So a little effort at this point will go a long way in the long term.
Yeah, and you want to prioritize. You want to look at the list of your needs and wants, and you want to look, okay, well, maybe we can push this project off, and this one's more important right now. So, it's a process. It's definitely, not something you're just going to sit down and do in one day and whatever. It's going to be a ever-evolving thing, just to see what's out there. The last kind of two programs that we are talking about, Clean Energy Community. The town is actually already involved in this program. It's not like any other grant program where you apply and then 6 to 8 months later then tell you what you get. These are, it's a program where there's high impact items that they call them, and the town can do each of these items, and then as you do them, you submit paperwork to NYSERDA, and then they'll give you points. And then as soon as you build up a certain amount of points, then you may be able to be eligible for some type of grant funding. I think you guys maybe already got the $5,000 grant.
We received one $5,000 grant a year, 2 years ago.
2 years ago, okay.
And then we received another one last year,
Okay.
the Clean Heating and Cooling Program. And just yesterday, we just got notice that we are eligible for a $10,000 grant for the fleet inventory. Was that what?
I thought that was the last part of it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I mean,
so there's, and again, they revamp this program every couple of years. They just revamped it back in January. So they put more funding into it and whatnot, and add different projects. So it's a nice program for the town to be involved in. Like I think we did the street lights, so that'll save a little bit of money. They last longer, save on electricity, greenhouse gases and whatnot. So as you move through the different high impact items, you get points, and then, as you go, you'll get grant money back to use for other projects. And those are, it looks like from the other day when I took this out, the town had around 2,100 points. So there's also a climate smart community program, which is very similar to the clean energy program. Climate Smart is actually through the DEC. Clean Energy is through NYSERDA. They actually play off each other. Things that you do in one you can get points for in the other program. And this is still the same thing where you do high impact items and do items from their list, and then you can get points or stars, or I forget how they call it. And then you can get more grant funding for that. Climate Smart Communities also does have a grant program where if you are a Climate Smart Community, you can then apply for an actual real grant, not a real grant, but program for other items too. So, they do work well together. Rob Richardson, you've dealt with him. He's great to work with. He can help you through this one. For this one, you would really just need to do a resolution, set up a board, or not a board, but a committee. And then you can start working on seeing where you guys, what items you would want to work on for the town. And then as you accumulate more points, you'll get more money back.
With these, back to that CFA process, there's questions in the CFA that ask you, are you a climate smart community? Are you a clean energy community?
Yeah.
Is this project listed in a comprehensive plan? Is this project listed in a downtown revitalization plan? And those all mean points on a grant application.
Yeah, so any grant you apply for, especially with the, like you said, the New York Forward or the DRI or the Climate Smart, it just shows the town is committed to trying to build a better town. So anything that we can do to show that you're committed will help in any of the grants that you apply for.
Any questions regarding any of that stuff? I know that's a lot, so please feel free to reach out to me at any time, phone, text, email, whatever. If you guys do come up with questions, we will get them answered. But the town has projects or talks about projects, comes up with a project. We'd be happy to run through a course with you guys of where we could start and how we get there when you do have a better idea of exactly what you're looking at.
And Laura hit on it at the beginning. I mean, one of the things that I respect Scott and Lori for a lot is they'll tell you up front if this ain't going to make it. So to apply for a grant costs money, costs resources, and if it doesn't look like it's going to work out, then it's just as easy to say, not this year, next year, and do these three things.
Yeah, we don't want to get involved in a project that's not going to be successful, so we don't want you guys to spend the money. I don't think it's a good fit, so we absolutely will be honest about that for sure. So that was all that. The last thing I have, we've used enough of your time at this point. I did send over a proposal for the wastewater treatment plant for the WQIP grant. I sent that. I just sent it yesterday, so I'm not sure if you guys have all seen it.
It's not on the agenda today.
Okay.
We've got a meeting in 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep, so there's no hurry on it.
We have that,
The debriefing next week.
it's on Monday, I think it is.
Okay.
Monday
Yeah.
or Tuesday.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Just another opportunity for funding for the wastewater treatment plant. We have a debriefing because it was not successful last year. We made some changes to the report based on some comments we've already received from EFC to make the score higher. We'll have that debriefing, and then you guys have the proposal. So just something to consider for more funding for the wastewater treatment plant.
Thanks, Scott.
Did you all get copies of the presentation?
Yes, and I also have a copy that Kate got
We
forwarded
have
by
a bunch
Lori
of
last
extra
night.
ones here that we'll
Somebody
leave
else
as well.
needs
We'll leave these in case folks.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Can I speak?
Yes, Carol.
Okay.
Sure.
I just brought for the board to go with the Climate Smart, a model resolution that I was able to find. If we decide that we want to go this route, then we're going to need to make a resolution to be able to be a climate strike.
Oh, thank you.
So you could just take a look at that and put it on the agenda for a future time. And let me know if you have any questions as part of the CERIC committee, okay?
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
This is your reports on.
Does anybody have any questions about anything that was brought up? The reason I asked MRB group to come and talk about this is I wanted everyone to realize the legwork that the community needs to do to really bring these things to light, because you can sit here and make something up and send it in, but if there's not community involvement, so I think that if you're interested in utilizing any of these programs, that let me know and we can move forward. Okay, but if there is no participation from the community, it's kind of pointless to put the effort forward. So, yes, Josh?
Who are you going to task with identifying projects, and who are you going to task with updating the comprehensive plan? Planning board or the town board?
That's something that we as a board need to discuss. I know that currently the planning board is just finishing up the zoning laws revisions for the last comprehensive plan update of 2019. However, I do know that they've worked very hard on that the last couple of years, to be honest, along with their regular work. And they have taken a lot of the comprehensive plan into consideration, I think. So I think that a lot of the zoning would match any comprehensive plan changes. Who's going to be tasked for it? We need to discuss that as a board. I don't know how familiar anybody on the board is with the comprehensive plan, the current one, or as the engineering firm MRB Group said, its importance in moving forward with these projects. A lot of the things, when Excelsior came to town 3 months after the comprehensive plan was adopted, it changed a realization of the local people's idea of what the future, things that never would happen now are happening. So a relook at that and how, like I was talking to Jim yesterday, the power lines are not going anywhere. That needs to be looked at for the next 20 to 30 years with the way the energy market is going. So the comprehensive plan is the place to start with that. So how do you think that we should move forward with it? Ask for an ad hoc committee of the community to start it, or?
So having been on both committees, we tend to get stuck in a lot of discussion and not as much resolution to different comments and things. I think that if you wanted to make a committee that had maybe 2 members from each board and then some community involvement, I know everybody wants to have another meeting every month, but it might speed the process up as opposed to just having a report coming back and then a representative from this board go back to the planning board and having to go back and forth once a month. I know that the planning board, when George Squares was still here and the chairman had gone through and changed the priorities of the goals that are listed in the comprehensive plan to more accurately fit the current situation the town is in. I think I have those notes still somewhere. I'm sure Chris does as well. They were never acted upon. The town board, we discussed it briefly last year sometime, but it was never adopted. So I don't know that you have to start from scratch. But I think, what they were talking about with different resolutions and everything else, I think the comprehensive plan has to, like the zoning is almost done, I get it. And I know that they've worked a long time on it and there's lots of legalese in there that has to be correct. But we got in trouble with the comprehensive plan before because the zoning was done without any really comprehensive plan, and then the comprehensive plan came in, and then the zoning was a mess, and so we're trying to, I think we gotta get those both fixed at the same time. And then we can move on to identifying these projects. I think we all have kind of a wish list of things we want to see. Whether they're feasible or not, I think we put them on paper and then get them to the engineers and see what they say, yeah, possibly, and not a chance.
Yeah, I'll add on just because I don't want to say the zoning laws are almost done, just because there was that, we had a changeover with the town attorney. Last it was left off, the town attorney, the new one was going through it. Bill, I don't know if Chris is...
Closer than we've been.
Closer than we've ever been.
Yes, and I know that the attorney will be here next Wednesday at the planning board meeting to review all the notes. And I believe it's close to coming to the town board to be reviewed for approval.
Yeah, they're still going through them because when I was on there, we were starting to go through them, working on it. As the planning board liaison, I'll just put it out there now. I think it's kind of obvious I should probably be involved in this, seeing as how I am that sort of middle person between the two. I also know when you have the committee signs up, you did have a comprehensive plan.
I was kind of gearing towards it only because of some discussion in the past.
Right. So I'll just put it out there now, since we're discussing it now. I am interested in doing something like that so that we do at least have one board member going forward that can kind of work between the two. Obviously, I talked to Chris and everything, and so on from there. And planning board meets next week.
Wednesday, yes.
Yeah. And so I will touch base with Chris, see if he has any notes about what you're talking about, Josh, and we'll go from there.
I can forward those if you
That
want.
too.
Well, I think at this point with it, it's a little fresher on everybody's mind than it was when it was first tasked several years ago, right, Jim? For the comprehensive plan. We just did it, now we're re-looking at it again. It's not going to be starting from ground zero. It's just looking at the things, some of the concepts I think that were in there that don't quite apply to how our community is now. So, and fully understanding the benefits of the comprehensive plan. I don't think that when we first started, we realized how important that document really is to future things.
We looked at the comprehensive plan that was before the 2019 one, and then built on that one and tried to bring it up to date to 2019.
Right, but I think that we didn't realize the impact that it would have moving forward as much as it does now.
That is correct.
That one was like
So-
93?
Something like
Yes,
that.
it
Yeah, it was really old.
It was, so things have changed. So please email, at this point, I guess, you heard the presentation, those are some of the things that are available. Those are all geared towards some revitalization, or they blend into each other in order to get points for some of the grants. So there's some information in place that that we can move forward on, but we have to decide it as a board. But you, as a resident, need to voice your opinions on whether or not we need to pursue these things. So if there's more meeting, there'll be another meeting, we'll be bringing this back up. So please feel free to speak up about these things, because some of these things are matching funds and they're town funds, which means they're resident funds. So it's everybody out there, okay? So if you think it's not a good idea, let us know and let us know why, I don't know if anybody up here wants to, before we go on to anything else.
Good.
This is just a starting point, okay? With a little more explanation from somebody that knows more than we do about the programs.
I would just add on too, obviously as we're working with the communication committee, we're going to obviously continue to try to ensure that as we work through these projects, we're communicating that back out to the community, so that when we do need residents or business owners that need to step forward to talk about those things, we're getting that information out to people. And so, like you said, this is just the first step, but we're setting the foundation for it, we're working on it, we're trying to build on it, and I, for one, am very, very optimistic that we're gonna do some good here at the very least.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to the rest of the meeting since it's already 8 o'clock. The board received a letter from Louise Parcel from the Assessor's office and a discovery. We need to have a discussion about that. It's been four parcels. Anybody have any comments about that? And I'll be speaking with Bridget. She's not able to come tonight. There's some other things going on in the office. I'll speak to her directly and forward her that information Monday.
Do the four residents that have that, do they know that they?
I don't believe so. Louise's mother passed away. I haven't talked to her this week since we.
But I think it's something like that, we should at least let the residents know.
What's going on before they get the tax bill? And what
do we do
we're
for?
proposing?
Yeah. I think, right?
No, I think we'd be surprised, you know. I mean, if they knew it already, they've been pleasantly surprised for,
Just
but, you know.
to let everybody know that there was in 2017 that the water district, when it went through and put in there, there was 4 residents that the water went through and they were never billed, right, on their taxes.
They weren't included on the debt service charges for that particular district. It was an add-on. I think we don't know exactly what happened at this point of why it wasn't added onto the tax bills. However, it's been realized now and we're trying to correct that, and we've got to just find out how legally we can. And we're still in the research stages. So that just came out the end of last week, I think. Yeah. From the assessor.
I think that's going to go to the...
But the residents need to know first, so we'll reach out.
And that's what I, because the residents would let them know first.
Do you think that the letter should come from Louise or the town board?
Probably from the assessor, it's coming from part of their taxes, she's the one that takes care of the taxes, and
Right.
go up to them. And then
Just let her know.
Let it goes, and then we'll take it from there. It's
Just an informational thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are these properties in Stafford?
No,
No.
Okay, that's something different.
that's something different.
It's a whole nother different-
Another topic.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Did we pass this along, because I know, did we pass it along to Bridget to see if did you hear anything about? She was coming tonight. I had a pile of stuff for her tonight. And she may have been CC'd on that email. I don't recollect. I talked to her a couple of times about some other things. And she was supposed to be here tonight, but that all changed today with stuff going on in her office. But I do have a call into her for several topics next week. On Monday, I'm supposed to call her. So we'll put that on there just to make sure we need to go over the legal opportunities. Right.
And she's got to look at what transpired. So to answer your first question, yes, she knows about it because she needed to look into it more.
Right.
Okay.
And then I just have one other one. I know it said in the letter that in 2023 that it was a certain rate. Has that been consistent from when it's?
No, it changes every year on several different things. The assessor has the record of all those because it gets levied on the taxes every year. So we'll need to see what they missed out, I believe, before, and then how we proceed, and we'll have to decide that. But there's a record of all that information. It's only four units, so it can be more of a one-on-one with everybody instead of when it comes down to it, I think. So that's what's going on with one of the water districts. We have, since the beginning of the year, we've been utilizing Justice Mattison from the town of Stafford as our town justice. We've had to make a few decisions. We've interviewed several candidates. We've actually done a round 2 with 3 candidates this past week. We asked them in and spoke with them again. And we had conversations on, what day was it? Tuesday, Monday? I don't remember what day it was.
Monday.
Afterwards, in regards to the 3 qualified candidates, I think we were pleased with the results that of the people that moved forward or came forward to seek out the position. Tonight we're going to appoint, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, at this point we're going to proceed with Justice Mattison and his experience till the end of the year. We do have his appointment through December 31st of this year. So we'll utilize him and his experience while we get somebody else up and running. There's a class for the appointed justice in April that they'll need to attend before they can take on their position. And we need to get that person appointed, sworn in, and ready and registered for that class so that they can attend in April. So I believe tonight we want to appoint someone. And with that, if anybody else wants to bring up any comments about that whole thing, please do.
My only thing, and I'm sure other members of the board share, I really, really do appreciate all the applicants that we got. Even, not just the 3 that we felt, we wanted to hear more from. It really is moving to see how many people got something and they said, I want to step up in the community, I want to do something in the community. And we really do appreciate the willingness to do that. And, by no stretch of the imagination was this easy. It's a lot back and forth you go through when making decisions such as this. But I just wanted to express that gratitude. I know we have 2 applicants in the audience tonight, so I want to express that sincerely, that I really do appreciate that.
Took the word right out of my mouth, didn't it? That being said, again, we had all 3 of them really good candidates. I would like to make the motion to nominate Edward Shank as judge. Upcoming.
Motion to appoint.
Motion to appoint Edward Shank for the judge position.
Second.
We'll take a vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
So we're appointing, is Ed here tonight? No. Okay. We will contact Ed tomorrow to let him know that we've appointed him as the town justice. He will have to, I believe, run in November, so he'll be on the ballot. There'll be another person that can run as well, because we do need to fill the 2nd position in January. So we hope that the candidates that we interviewed do seek candidacy, I guess is what it's called, for the position to be on the ballot for November. Okay? Thank you. Now we are on to vouchers and abstracts. I can't believe how many bills this town gets. Yes, if you could do the general fund vouchers. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Could I ask a question? Who were the 3 candidates that came into, and then also part of that question, can the other 2 job shadow or anything like that, like in the past?
Okay, question number 1, our 3 candidates were Edward Shank, that was appointed, Marilyn Weinert, who is an acting town clerk currently, and Christopher Scapano. Okay, they all interviewed with us for a 2nd time on Monday, and we talked with each of them. Okay, to your 2nd question, I can't answer that. I don't know if anybody else up here knows anything about justice shadowing, but we can look into that if someone's, we'll find out, either from Justice Mattison or Jim Lampkin.
When I was elected and I started coming to court, there was a primary, which I went in the primary, and I started coming to court with Judge Tyler in June, and I didn't take over until January. But watching that, and actually I came and watched both judges, so I was here every week. But that was really, really helpful in being able to do that. I just sat out in the audience. I couldn't participate whatsoever, but just watching the process and how they did things was very educational.
Okay.
So I would recommend that you ask your Mr. Shank to do that, and we'll give him
even the next few weeks before he goes to class.
Well,
whatever.
Anytime, whatever.
Okay.
Well, he's got plenty of time between now and when he takes. Well, he'll take the benches
as soon as he gets back from class, is my understanding. So.
Well, then he doesn't have much time. But
not for that, but the other 2, I think, was what anybody that was running, she recommends, or she wanted to know if they could shadow prior to.
Well, I don't know about the other ones that are running, because they're not even been, they're not nominated yet, or they don't have their petitions signed or anything like that.
No, but there's still.
Anybody
time.
can come and shadow.
Right. So.
That was my question.
Yes, Mr. Wilson.
I thought it was open to the public. I mean, anybody can sit back here and
Yes,
observe.
yes, court is.
Yeah, that's open.
Yeah.
So I will find that out about the shadowing and let the candidates know if they'd like to, that they're more than welcome, and probably ask the justice questions as well. So.
I think that was part of our plan for not appointing both judges now,
That would be excellent.
so.
Then they would have an experience.
Shadow Judge Gonzalez.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Yep, any vouchers?
Be it resolved that the Byron Board pay the following vouchers / abstracts. Abstract 3.5, vouchers number 55 through 69, and those vouchers are as follows. Voucher number 55, Action Security. Voucher number 56, SMG Sample Media Group Batavia. Voucher number 57, Benicare Incorporated. Voucher number 58, Edward Arnold Scrap. Voucher number 59, GENESEE County Town Clerk Association. Voucher number 60, Heath and O'Toole PLLC. Voucher number 61, Lawley GENESEE. Voucher number 62, National Grid. Voucher number 63, New York Town Clerk Association. Voucher number 64, S&W Services. Voucher number 65, Charter Communications. Voucher number 66, Toshiba Financial Services. Voucher number 67, Verizon. Voucher number 68, Verizon. Voucher number 69, Western New York Teamsters Welfare Fund, for a total of $9,686.90.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those are general fund, correct?
Yes, general.
Okay.
Fund for water benefits, abstract 3.5, voucher number 4 for Heath and O'Toole. Total of $371.25. And also for the sewer fund, abstract 3.5, vouchers 15 through 19 to 80 Call & Sons, Edmunds Government Tech, Heath and O'Toole, National Grid, Verizon, for $3,615.48.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay. Now for different reports. David, anything to report on the highway?
No, I haven't got nothing. The only thing I want to do is, we're starting to work on the dock, so I want to make sure the town wants to pay for fixing that, that's all. Kind of trust the park, that's your call, trust the park.
Do you happen to know off the top of your head, is that does that come out?
2,000 or less.
Do you happen to know by any chance if it was the park committee, if it was?
Yeah, there's something.
No, it wasn't.
Okay. Do you already have the supplies?
What's that?
Are you just estimating what the supplies are going to cost to do it? And
If you don't want to fix it, I won't fix it.
I have never been down there, so I've never really.
They're falling apart.
What's that?
They're bad.
They're bad? They're unsafe?
Highly recommend we fix it.
Okay. So, motion, someone?
So moved.
Second favor? Oh. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. When you do those receipts, Dave, will you just make sure you put on their doc when you send them, when you submit and stuff? I get confused with some of the stuff, like that one. I just have to work on what account numbers things go on, so. Anything else?
Can I just add,
You guys did a wonderful job fixing my yard from the snowplow. Well, that's nice to hear.
That's for right now.
Well, if it doesn't snow again, don't mess it back up. I need a motion to approve the highway superintendent's report.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, carried. Town clerk's report?
Not much to report. Paid $34 to New York Ag and Markets for the spay and neuter program, and that's it.
And that was February's report,
That was
correct?
February's report, yes.
Okay. And just to let everyone know, we're catching up with some other things. The last two town clerk's reports, Christie will be submitting the funds that go to the general fund from the clerks, now that we have a town clerk here. So she'll be writing the check for that and getting it deposited next week, okay? With that, any motion to approve the town clerk's report?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's carried. Supervisor's report, financial report, you just received, I think that, I don't know if you had enough time to look at it, that was an oversight with a new person. My routine was a little off for forwarding it to you after the last meeting, so I'll get better at that. Did you want to table that for today? Now that we're a couple months in, I'd like, if you would please take a good look at that for fund balances and everything. The funds from the taxes have been all put into the proper accounts, and it shows things. So take a good look at that before the next one, or the next meeting, before we approve it, if you would, please, okay? There's a lot of stuff going on, and we're getting stuff done at the town hall, and working with Christie's been great. So with that, we're just going to try cleaning up some of the stuff from the last couple months, and hopefully by next month we'll be really on track for that kind of stuff. It's a lot of filing, but I think she's got it pretty much cleaned up there of the tasks that were completed but not filed properly for a couple months. So she's got everything organized there, and it's been a big help, and it's cleaned up. So that's all I really have to report. Been working with getting this grant, the grant project, the sewer project, just getting everything in line as far as some of the projects that are underway at this point. So a big learning experience for me. So with that, I just need a motion to approve, nothing too spectacular.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Anything to, Mr. Yaxley, Historical Society Museum report, there you are.
Yes, thank you. We have finally installed the internet, and it's up and running at the museum at a cost of $100 a year, which we have already paid. And it works on for your cell phones and for any laptops you might want to bring in there. As mentioned in last month's meeting, our semi-annual dinner will be May 16th at the Presbyterian Church at 6 p.m. Dr. Richard Love will be the guest speaker. And we set a price of $18 per dinner. Jan is taking reservations. And we will have another basket raffle online, which I believe she will coordinate with Josh. In the middle of February, I listed the museum address and a photo on Google Maps. And as a result, it's on all map services now. It blew through the whole system of maps online. And we actually have 50 hits of people using GPS to try to find our address. And the reason for that was contractors looking to provide quotes for installation. And that brings me to the last subject for tonight, and it would take quite a while. I have a feeling that we might want to adjourn this portion of it until the next meeting, because there's a 2-page history of the heating and cooling of that building, the museum, as well as a spreadsheet on the contractors that responded. And the board needs to read that and digest it before you comment and make any decisions on it, and we would all appreciate that. It would be fairest to us, the citizens, and to you. Our biggest question is going to be who on the board is going to authorize the expenditure and who will sign the contract.
Well, that would have to be the whole board.
Okay. All right, so we would review that at the next meeting potentially? Okay, and you need to digest that as a matter of advisement. That concludes all I have for the Historical Society.
Thank you, Don.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Parks Committee, I don't think there's any,
Yes.
Don, yes, Don.
I'm the
Parks.
secretary. Okay, we're planning on, George contacted me over the weekend. In May, he's planning on restocking more fish in Trestle Pond. That's set up with some agency here in Genesee County that sells the fish. He would place an order, they would deliver it 2 weeks later. We're still looking for new committee members. Our meetings, the next meeting will be April 4th at 7 p.m. on a Zoom meeting, and the May 2nd meeting will be 7 p.m. in the community park. I will get with the town clerk mid-April to place an ad in Batavia Daily concerning bidding for the gatekeeper down on Trestle Park, and also to send out letters to 5 contractors for portable toilets that we usually send out. And the last thing to report is a great group of citizens, including Nate and myself, cleaned up Community Park a few weeks ago, and we were surprised to find almost 6 garbage bags filled with bottles, cans, and debris. And we passed out postcards to those folks that showed up to try to get them to become members. That concludes my report.
I would just like to add on as well that Victoria Walsh was also a very important part of that. She did put out a notice. It was very short, but really do appreciate that you were trying to organize people.
And we were talking about coordinating something to get more people to come and do the same thing over at Trestle. But we were talking like in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we were thinking after the eclipse, let all that fun jazz
The
go
following weekend. And if enough people know ahead of time, it's a much bigger park. So if we get more people to come, show up and give, I mean, we did the whole park in like half an hour and there's only a handful of us. So Trestle Park's bigger, but if we could get like, 20 people there even, we could do it in like an hour.
And also with the hope of going on the trails that we have there, that I know the Boy Scouts have worked really hard on to kind of make nice. I'm sure we're going to work at Turtle Pond at some point and probably along the West Shore Trail while we're going at it. Just picking up garbage, making our town a little nicer. Just simple as that.
So I'll put something on the Byron-MRB community page again when we come up with like a time, and if it's going to be a Saturday or Sunday, which I think would be our best bet. And then whoever comes, great. If you can, if you have a time, if you have a half hour, an hour, then you can show up and, bring a bag with you and just fill a bag. That would be great.
Don, when was the next park meeting? I didn't write it down.
April 4th.
Yeah, it would be the 4th.
April
And that's
4th
going to be on
is
Zoom?
It's a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
Vicki, are you now a member of the park committee by any chance? Not officially? Okay, just checking.
Do you want to be?
I think is there an application online? Is that what that is? Or is it, or you just get to show up?
Do you have that card that you brought when we did the
I gave her that.
Yeah, I have that.
No, I just was curious. But if after April 4th meeting, if you attend and can get a tentative itinerary of that, we'd be happy to put it on the town website to start under the park committee. If that's,
sure.
Yeah, just forward me something and we'll get it to our webmaster. She's been pretty good about getting stuff on us in a very timely manner, so.
Yeah, I have that. I still have that card. It's right on my kitchen table, actually.
Excellent. Good.
I was thinking I'd do joining your Zoom, actually, because I wanted to talk to you about what we had talked about, cleaning of the next part.
get your email address and we'll take care of that.
Yeah, and while we're on the cards, I would just like to suggest, if you do have more copies, maybe we can have them out, like how we have where the rulers and everything.
Yep.
So just, so
Drop
when people
me-
come in, they can see them, if they're interested, they can pick one up and go, so we can hopefully get you some.
I mean, for such a little town, we have some very, more than, to have more than one park in this little town. And we have a few really, really nice parks. And if we keep them nice, I mean, I talked to somebody that actually lives out near Albion, and she said, if you guys get together and clean up Trestle Park, she goes, let me know, I'll come help, because I go to Trestle Park all the time and walk the trails. She lives in Albion. She said, I love Trestle Park, it's so cute. So, I mean, like, for a little town, we have some really, to have like 3 little parks in this little town, that's like, I mean,
Keep up that enthusiasm.
I mean,
Yeah, so Don, if you want to drop off some of those sheets,
to have 3
we'll put them at the
parks.
counter at the clerk's
Great.
desk.
So, yeah, so we'll plan on that then, the weekend after, the weekend after the eclipse.
Motion to approve park committee report.
Make a motion to approve.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Fire EMS report, there was a meeting with 2 council members on 3/18. Anything to report back?
I just, I would like to make a interject, since we got started, like, short tenure here, nice to see the fire companies working together. I see they're getting their members, or, what they're trying to get from members, but the communication between the two is, I see it going really good with Brian Hickey being the chief, Bob Merzak being the chief over in Byron. They're doing what they can. Just, it always boils down to, they get money, it's strapped for money. They're trying they can with the limited funds that they have. But as far as when we and Eric met and what they had to go over there, I think they've done, it's improving by far from what little bit I've seen so far.
You mean with what you asked them to provide back to us?
They're working their butts off to try to get members. As we all know, to get employees is one thing.
When do you meet again with them?
We're June.
That's a June.
Again, it's every quarter, so again, they're improving. It's just tough for them to get volunteers. They're doing it, but barely.
Well, Fred is a member of the fire department. I can go back to the next meeting there. As a town, if we have that website, we'd be happy to put a little blurb on there about membership or something. If you, and I can get with Bob or nothing.
And I know they're trying.
No, I
just said
know,
they're
I've
doing
talked-
what they can, and you're right, Candy, if you can get
But
the
any support we
more
can
out
give
there.
to them,
Anybody has kids out there to join, again, probably the best volunteer organization we have in our community is the fire department, and we hope we never need it.
And I will just add on with that, of course, the shortage in volunteers is a statewide issue. The fire departments made sure we were aware of that. I think that really showed Martin and I a big insight into the costs just for it. I mean, just to share just a little bit, I mean, that fire equipment that they come in with, it's $4,500 for one set of equipment, and they are mandated by the state that they have to have 2 per firefighter. And so, that's just one example of it, but when you think about how that scales, when you think about the 10 vehicles we have, right, Martin? The 10 vehicles we have, they have to keep them updated. Volunteer fire companies, I've always had a huge appreciation for because it's volunteer. That is somebody in your community saying, I'm going to step up, I'm going to put my life on the line to help other people, and it's not just with fires, it's EMS, it's a lot of other things. I was listening on the radio when I was waiting for an appointment one day. New York State's talking about, if we lose the volunteer fire companies and we have to go to a hired one, the estimate they gave was that property taxes could probably go up by 28%, which is not a cost I think a lot of people really want to chew on. So obviously, like Candy said, and I was going to express as well, I think us working to ensure we're getting the word out, coordinating with the town and the fire departments to get them volunteers, to try to figure a way to deal with the spending. you know, and just a lot of things moving forward. Just ensuring that we have a volunteer fire company. I'd like to keep it that way. I'd like to ensure that people take that pride in this town and then sharing with their neighbors, because I really feel like it's one of those bonds that keep us different from a lot of other places in the world. It's that sense of community that we have. And I feel this board, I feel that we're gonna do our best to try to make sure that we keep it as best as we can.
Do they do much fundraising? The fire department?
They
don't have a lot of events, right? Because I don't hear about them, but maybe I just don't hear about them.
You just don't hear
I
about
think
them.
they spend so much time training now. Byron Fire Department, I think one guy had over 200 hours training. So those requirements from the state, it leaves less and less time for fundraising.
We just completed, South Byron just completed their major fundraiser in that, which was the sportsman's raffle. And they sell 1,000 tickets at $20 a piece, and we sold out in that. The fire departments don't have weddings like they used to. I don't know where people get married, but they don't have weddings at, receptions at their halls. Just people don't do it. They don't do, anniversaries or anything like that. Either they go to a major venue place, that costs extremely a lot, or they just don't anymore. And that's, the halls, a lot of times it sits vacant where it could be rented, but people just aren't doing it.
Ever thought of advertising that, something like that for
I think they do.
It's on our website.
It's for all the,
I'm just asking.
all the fire departments are going through the same thing.
Unfortunately, it's part of the lack of volunteerism.
Well, because if you do so, we have to have volunteers to do it.
Well, part of the auxiliary that used to support the firemen is not, 40 years ago when I joined South Byron's auxiliary, there was wives, mothers of those men, and I mean men, not men and women, that were out fighting the fires and doing all the training. Then as you got into the 90s and early 2000s, the family aspect went from the husband being the major breadwinner doing most of the working, and the wife being at home and able to be more functional, went to two spouses working all the time. So that cut down on family time. And I'm not trying to make excuses, I'm just seeing what the trends were.
The dynamics of family have changed.
And then, of course, females got to the point that said, hey, I can go out and help the men with the fire trucks. So we've now got not just men, we have men and women doing what they can do.
Right.
And it's taken away from the pot of who's willing to help cater a wedding or available for it.
Right. Or do like breakfast, on Sundays, where we could put money in.
Just putting on that fundraiser took about
overall volunteerism as a whole is evident in every committee within the town, whether it's the Historical Society, the Park Committee, either of the fire departments, the EMS, the overall volunteerism. So the volunteers that volunteer to do the jobs now are also asked to volunteer to support their own efforts, and that's where, as a town, we have to make, the future is making some tough decisions in how we support all of the organizations, and making sure that everybody's getting what they need to best support all of our residents. Whether it's the Historical Society, the parks, there's everything comes down to it. The thing is, it's life-saving for the fire department and EMS. So, to put the burden of more fundraisers on how many people are in each fire department, Joan? 30 to 40. Plus the full-time jobs, it's just
I was just thinking they
And if you
could
look
have
at the-
somebody,
look at your
a person to
taxes.
coordinate some fundraising
Look
for
at your
them.
taxes, next time you get your taxes, because we all just paid them, look at your bill and what the line item is, okay? For what the line item for some of these things are. Look at the breakdown. I mean, it's a painful bill to pay, but if you look at what you're getting bang for your buck, that portion is really not that much. It's like 2 dinners out, you know, for a family of 4. That's covering your fire protection for the year, you know? So we need to really look at that and see how we can make sure we continue as much funds as possible to those. So it's not an easy task, and hopefully we'll figure it all out, but it's a joint effort. And knowing that two departments work together makes a big difference. Anybody else with fire EMS? I guess from the fire department? I think I still need South Byron's. That'd be weird. No. I got it?
Yeah, they had everything the other day when.
Oh, okay, I didn't get it then. Okay, I just was filing, okay. So I need approval for or motion to approve that fire EMS report.
So moved. Second.
CEO, ZEO report. She was gonna get me something back, but she did not before the meeting. So there's nothing to report. Planning, ZBA, anything?
I'll just make sure I check on the zoning law revisions, so the next board meeting we have, we can get a definitive point where Bridget and Chris and all them are at with that. And I'll make sure I talk to them about how we're going to be re-looking at the comprehensive plan, because we want to start thinking about these grants and how it all applies into the zoning law, the housing, the clean energy, all of it. So I will make sure that what we're saying here is really there.
Maybe take one of these to the meeting, okay? Thank you. Approval of the planning work?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
So moved. Oh, I forgot to. Okay, we all said aye. Communications committee. Ben, you've been in touch with the county, I believe.
Yes, I have. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ben Rakuya, part of the Communications Committee. First order of business, I'd like to request if we can get the Communications Committee on the calendar for our next meeting. I know it's kind of up in the air at this point. I'm not sure if it's going to be the first and third or the first Mondays of the month. Just hoping if we can get something on the board.
Anybody have a preference? I don't know what Sarah's schedule is, but she's bogged down a little bit right now with some commitments, but we can work, I mean, we can decide if she can come at this point, she will, and if not, we'll.
Let me check my calendar, I'll relay it to her, and we'll get it all. We'll get the next one set.
We'll stay in
You
communication.
said Mondays, correct? Mondays work for me.
Mondays are fine. If another day works out better, that's perfectly fine. Wednesdays are a little tough for me, but any other days is perfectly fine.
Don't you have court on Mondays?
We meet out there, so it's only a small group. We can work around that.
That's great. And, as I expressed on the last meeting, I did have a chance to meet with Mike Burns and Paul McAuliffe from Genesee County. They were very open to having a discussion. We had a lengthy conversation in regards to some of the requirements and needs and possibilities that we have here in the town in regards to our IT infrastructure and some of the equipment that we have. I would like to ask the board and or the supervisor's permission to share the Millennium quote that we received on our last assessment. Mike and Paul actually were very open to taking a look at that and possibly looking at some additional information in regards to what they have proposed. And we also might be able to compare, and they might be able to provide feedback on the cost and the configuration that Millennium has given to us. In addition, they're hopeful that they can possibly help us get the state rates in regards to the equipment and software costs. So hopefully we'll be able to work with them to do that. So I'd like to see if we can get permission to share that quote with them. Doesn't have to be tonight, but whenever the board and you have a chance to do that.
Do you mind if it's for the county, so I make a motion to discuss it with the county, if they can give us any help with
anything I say that we do it.
Yeah, and I'll just add to reading through it, obviously they discussed that there are things with regards to our computers and our software that do need upgrading, so I don't see a harm.
Is that quote public knowledge anyway?
It could be, yeah, so I mean, but they're discussing it, so.
So I would just say I don't have an issue with it, and I will second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Wonderful, thank you, I will share that information. Some of the other things that we did talk about, we discussed retention, cybersecurity, training, MFA, multi-factor authentication, password requirements, so on and so forth. I won't go into detail here, but at our next communications meeting, I'd be happy to share the details of those conversations. They did have quite a few suggestions that I think we can probably learn from. In addition to that, the Clerk software. In BAS, is that the current software that you're using for that?
Yes.
Okay. The version, I believe I got that this afternoon, is quite a few versions off, and there's quite a few updates and improvements that we can make with that. So I'd like to possibly have a discussion with you at some point to see what we currently are paying for that software, how we can acquire those updates to make sure that you have the latest and greatest in regards to the state requirements and the software in and of itself.
And just so anybody knows, the BAS is really just for your dog licensing, your marriage licensing, sewer utilities comes through the BAS and things like that. So just so everybody knows what that stands for.
Yep. In addition, do we know if the website that we currently have is based off of that software?
Off
not
of
sure.
BAS?
Yes.
No, it's linked with Millennium Server, whatever that,
It looks to be like we pay, sorry,
the
we pay Millennium just for the domain.
Okay. All right, so if we pay them just for the domain, I'd like to have a discussion at the next communications meeting. As part of the software agreement with and for the BAS software, there is the availability of a website that goes along with it. The domain is separate, of course, but the actual building of the website is more modern and updated than I think what we are currently using, so I'd like to make that a point of discussion at the next meeting. In addition, there were some suggestions from Paul and Mike. Basically, Pembroke has already gone through and they have revamped their small town infrastructure. So he suggests that we reach out to them, maybe have a little field trip out there to talk to those folks there, just to compare what we have versus what they have, some of the growing pains and best practices that they've learned during that process. So I'll again bring that up to the meeting so we can move forward with that if at all possible. One last thing, there are a bunch of grants that are available for assistance with equipment, software, and infrastructure. Steve Ferry, I believe his name is, the Darien supervisor. They also just had a recent assessment and worked with Mike and Paul in regards to upgrading their systems and such. So again, it would behoove us to go ahead and talk to those individuals as well to see if they have any recommendations. And again, the growing pains that they've gone through, we can learn from and probably put something together in short order. Thank you very much.
Any questions from the board?
I will make a motion to accept the report from the Communications Committee.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved, and we'll work on that date next, okay?
Sounds
Thank you
good.
for all that information and that,
Will do.
which is over my head, so. Next is Clean Energy Resources Information Committee. Darla?
Hi, Darla Barnum from the CERIC Committee. First of all, I want to thank Josh on behalf of the CERIC Committee and hopefully the whole town. He completed a survey through NYSERDA, which qualified us for a $10,000 grant. So the only thing,
Should be thanking the highway guys. They're the ones that give me the information. I just
okay.
put it in.
All right, well, thanks over there to you, Dave, too. So the next thing we have to do is get with the board to complete the grant application process, and we have 90 days to do that, so.
Okay, so that would be with Rob Richardson. He should be, if I remember correctly, forwarding the form letter. And we just have to put it on letterhead and send it to NYSERDA, or he'll forward it for us.
Okay.
So we'll do that as soon as he gets it to us.
All right.
It's all right with you guys. $10,000. Very nice. Do you have any idea when you're meeting again?
No.
Let us know.
Okay.
Okay. Motion to accept. And what Darla gave you earlier was the resolution,
An example of the resolution to,
adopt the Climate Smart Communities pledge, which they were talking about with the links, some of the points for some of the grant funding. It gives you a better score. So, by the looks of things, it doesn't really commit you to anything. It just allows you to participate and then accumulate the grants. And I think that Darla will be able to get us more information on the actual program. Once you look at the resolution and see, she'll forward that to you. Was there any unfinished town business from any of the other meetings that we need to? Yes, there is.
And when are the fire department's going to be paid?
Right after the next meeting, or we'll look at the vouchers at the next meeting. Okay.
I don't think we voted to accept the...
Oh, didn't we? Okay, sorry.
So that's unfinished.
Okay.
The motion to accept.
Thank you.
Second it.
So yes, they'll be in the voucher. Oh, all in favor? So moved. Answer your question, sorry. Yes, they'll be in the vouchers for the next meeting, which is, it's March. April 10th?
I think according to the contract, they were supposed to be paid by March 31st. I'm not sure.
Well, then I will check.
Well, it's all right. I mean,
No, that's okay.
Let's get it done.
I'll recheck the contract and we can see. I wish I checked earlier this month. Sorry.
I wish I would have allowed it.
Earlier this month. You weren't feeling well. So, it may be something I will check with the bookkeeper to do a post audit on, since it is a budget item, and I might be able to, I'll check with her tomorrow if I can do a post audit on it. The check will be written with a batch of vouchers and abstracts that go out today, and you'll sign for them next week. I just don't know if, being a budget item, if that can be done that way. I'll find out, okay? But thank you for bringing that up. And I just am getting that full listing from the bookkeeper of some required payments throughout the year. So remind me for the September one, before September, please, so I can get that in the batch. Okay? Any other unfinished town business? Anyone? Any new business from any of the council members?
Just because I mentioned it last time, I just wanted to say, I know I had mentioned that my mom had saw some hunting stands. I clarified with her it was the old one that she saw, so that issue has been addressed in case anybody sees it and they were curious. So it's an old one, because trestle and all that used to be private property before the town and so on and so forth. So nobody's hunting in trestle from what we can tell. So I just want to make sure that was on record and that I clarified that.
Just to follow up, I asked George about that last summer. How long has that tree stand been there? He said, it's been there for years. And it wasn't, way before Byron had the park there. And as far as the signs are concerned, I checked all three parks for signs. They're all in excellent condition with the exception of a police sign.
Yes.
The white sign, and then an N, and then it says for any malicious activity, call the sheriff at 3.35,000. It's legible, but I don't know what preceded the N that's at the top of it.
Probably just something like attention or what have you. But, I don't know if we would have to it's Johnson County Sheriff's, I believe, right?
White sign, I'm not sure. Dave might know.
I don't know. Whoever it is, maybe we could just say, hey, the top of the sign's faded. Just, I don't know. I just would like to have the whole message.
If I was you, I'd take that stand down, just for the fact of you won't be having questions, and it removes any liability of somebody falling out of it, since it's on town property.
It'd be very,
I was
very
going to say,
tough.
can you even sit in it anymore?
No, it's the tree has grown around it, it's so old. And the spikes that start way up, maybe 10 feet up, you'd have to have a ladder to get up to the first spike. So you're not gonna get there from shimmying up the tree.
But it is something to keep in mind.
Any public comments? Yes, sir.
I heard a rumor that the funding has run out on for the organization that has been doing the video recordings here at our meetings. And from what I understand, that's been a very, very positive thing in communicating so that people can see the board meetings. So my question is the board going to consider refunding that or so that we can have, I'm not sure what's Barbie's doing. You're not the replacement, I don't think.
Alicia's in Florida.
Oh, okay.
She's a fill-in.
So anyway, the question is, will the board consider refunding that so that it will continue?
Well, the last board was asked about Zoom meetings, and I know that they were against that. I don't know what the cost is involved of the video news service. I don't know if anybody here does, or what your thoughts are on.
That's the first I've heard of it.
Of what's that?
The cost.
The board didn't fund it before, I don't know where the funding.
Well, I know the board didn't fund it,
The board doesn't fund this.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So he said that somebody said that it's gonna stop. So
Somebody's got to, if it's going to continue, someone's got to fund it. Now, whether that individual that was funding it is going to do it, I don't know that part. But I would be,
Nobody knows who's.
the Zoom meetings, we did them back in COVID, and that was terrible. That you couldn't hear people, they had one camera set up in the back. And it's just was not as nearly as professionally done as the video service. So
yeah,
I would like to see it continue. That's up to the
or
board.
some similar.
Or we have Barbie every week. We
Or Barbie every week. Yeah, that's not something that the board has initiated. A resident has done so. So yes, Ben.
One of the points of discussion that was going to be brought up at the communications meeting was the opportunity to do Zoom/team meetings, depending on the type of software that we may be good at getting in regards to M365. So there is that opportunity, and to your point, Jim, that would be free based on the licensing model if we go that route. So recording it and then sharing it on the town website versus YouTube, et cetera, could be an opportunity there. So
yeah,
that's something
I know from what they did before, it was just terrible.
Yeah, they were using a laptop. There's different technology that I can suggest that would get very good quality in regards to recording those things. I'm not saying we would present at the same time that the meeting is happening, but record it and then have it available to the public afterwards. You can also, we have multiple options there.
So I think my opinion was when the Zoom meetings were being done and everybody had their own computer and everybody had their own camera in front of them, their own microphone, it was pretty easy to follow. When we were trying to broadcast the Zoom meetings here and there was one laptop over there and there wasn't a mic catching everybody, that was a mess.
That was a mess.
But for pricing purposes, the most expensive Zoom contract is $270 for a year. And I don't know exactly what that service costs, but having an actual camera in here with somebody just panning it and a good microphone, you could use that to broadcast via Zoom as well. So that's an option for the board. The Zoom links can be posted on our own website. Ben's got that kind of under control, but I think it was more of a technology problem with the Zoom as opposed to the platform.
Going forward, obviously it's going to be something we should what we're going to discuss. If we do have somebody do it, we would still send it to Video News Service and all that?
We don't send anything, we have nothing.
Oh, you're right, sorry, I meant like.
So I don't know that, this is just something that apparently,
It's coming,
he's concerned about it
Right.
changing.
Well, and I get it, I
Yeah,
agree with you, I think it's a
so-
wonderful thing to have. I would like to see that if we do get involved with it, whatever we decide to do, that we ensure that it's still going that avenue as well.
I would still try to, the internet's all about traffic, right? So the internet is all about traffic. So if you can drive the traffic to the town website, and then maybe they can see the updated calendar, and then more meetings, and, have that interaction, I think it would be a good thing.
Yes, Bob?
I want to change the subject.
Could I, wait a minute, on this subject, real quick? I agree with Josh. If we could look into getting a camera like Alicia's, where it won't be just for the town board. You'll have it for the planning department, you'll have it for special meetings, you'll have it for everything. And with the cost, then it's all at the same cost here. It's all controlled, because I don't know what it costs. Nobody knows.
Well, I had heard that there were, on the video services, that they had 900 hits on that, so if that's, even after, that's still quite a few hits
That is
for
quite a few
people
hits.
that, to see what really goes on here.
That could be 900 people looking at the website if we got it there instead.
Yeah.
There's one person watching it 900 times.
Yeah, maybe.
It's Christie.
It's Christie.
I'll be honest.
Sorry, one last question in that regard. Did we get any headway in regards to the Facebook page for the town of Byron?
We would have to check with Sarah, who I think was looking into that the last I knew. She took up another coaching job, so it's taken up a lot of her time, and I've not really, I've sent her some things to update, but other than that, she's been able to do that, but anything extra I really haven't looked into with her.
Yeah, to Josh's point, having it go to the website and/or Facebook and Instagram and all those other locations that people would visit
Look at.
would be beneficial.
Any input from this side of it? Do you find it a good thing, a bad thing, or other thing?
I think it's good. Like I said, my wife look at the 900 hits, and people are looking at it.
Yeah, the only thing I will say, I do agree with the traffic and all that and trying to get people to the website. The only reason I still would say we should consider Video News Service is just because those 900 clicks are coming from somewhere, and so or at the very least announcing it, because if we just go straight to it,
Yeah,
you're just going to
there's
have
a lot
that
of
drop
logistics
off.
before that,
Plus,
but to answer Jim's question, I guess we'll be looking into that.
That's all I'm
Okay,
asking.
Yep, thank you.
And plus,
You don't know who's paying for it right now? Who paid for it?
We're not sure that they want it to be public knowledge.
Oh.
Mtg, this is a private company?
Video News Service?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Oh, good.
They've since removed comments, correct, as well?
I believe so. Last one I checked.
Yeah, it is a privately owned company. There's benefits and drawbacks for that. So again, comments are withheld. If you have an open forum on the website or Facebook or YouTube, whatever, you can allow comments, that sort of thing. So again,
I think there's some
where it's
parameters that we
placed.
need to look at when if the town decides to
Cross the bridge.
host that platform. How's that?
Regardless of where you place it, try to get it out as much and as far as wide as possible.
Any other public comments? Yes, Bob, sorry.
I want to go down a different rabbit hole. I was talking to an individual that works for, not Oxbow, with the farm department. And he said that they are authorized, they've been told to plant this year. So what is the status of the solar project?
The status of the solar project, from any communications that I've had at this point since January, the beginning of February was the last time I spoke with an attorney from Harris Beach that was representing the Excelsior company. The application some sort of application Excelsior was submitting to either NYSERDA or the Public Service Commission, I'm not sure which one. It's not supposed to be decided until some date in April, and they were part of a group of Article 10 contractors that started the process prior to COVID that were finding financial constraints or restrictions for the proceeding. That's all I know. There has not been other communication back to me. I've heard a lot of secondhand rumors. Whether any of them are true, I have no confirmation of that.
Is that still being updated on that public information site for the New York State for the project? I haven't looked at it.
I haven't looked at that in a long time either. I don't think our
I think January 2023 is the last entry.
yeah, basically any of the information has been kind of just went away as far as communicating.
Once it was cited, then they just stopped.
Correct. That's what, from what I've seen. I've kind of stopped watching because I haven't got any notices. I'll be honest. From that case number, I still get pop-ups for a couple other ones that I was linked to that pop up, and they're more of a general thing, but we're not mentioned in that. It was something else.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I came in late tonight. I thought I had read that there was going to be a presentation on the solar proposal for Iverson Road. I can't remember the name of
That
it.
was
Leatherleaf. That was Leatherleaf, and that was a public hearing yesterday at 4 o'clock, I believe. It was here, and it was just on the pilot agreement with the solar project on Iverson Road. Our attorney is working on the small hosting agreement for the town at this point. There is a small one attached to it. Anything else? Yes.
A quick question on the water contract. It's my understanding that they put in an application to extend the time in the last meeting.
Correct, they did.
And it got denied. And then they're going to be fined if they don't complete that contract by the time it's
28, so we had a comment, or the thing they had the other day, Sean, and they have till, we did deny it, Jeff reiterated if they have anything. Right at this particular moment, they have till the April 28th to fulfill their contract. If they don't fulfill their contract after the 28th, that's when we can start the proceeding of finding the contractors. Looking at quite a bit, the one on the south side, they were doing pretty good. The one on the north side, there's probably going to be issues. Again, they have a contract till the 28th, and if they don't, we prepare ourselves for that, but there is a penalty that does go along with it. What the cost is, I think that's somewhere around that $1,200 to $1,500 a month, and the other big question is once that day. And the big question is, where does that money go?
Right.
That was.
So I don't think that penalty will help anybody in Byron. It's not going to lower our debt service. It may take away some of the grant money, but our debt service won't change.
And where does the money go to then?
I would imagine into the
general
contract.
Towards the grant, state?
It'll go towards the water project.
But isn't the water project already figured in, the amount of money?
Yes, but the grant money isn't. So the more money, we got to spend all of our loan money first, and then I believe any penalty, I mean, it's not extra money for us. It'll be used in the contract, but that would be less grant money we would get.
So it would lower what, if you were penciling this whole thing out, those penalties would lower the total cost, but it's not money coming back to it's just less money going to the contractor, not money coming back to the town.
Correct. Josh, I asked that question, and honestly, no one had a specific answer where it went.
I think it just disappears. It's just less money they're getting paid.
Less money we'll receive from the grant.
Right, that would have normally gone to the contract.
So there's,
It's coming out both sides of the balance sheet, the ledger.
so all we can do is use it as leverage for them to hurry up.
We're not gain, it's a penalty against them, but it's not a gain for the town.
Correct.
So the contractor gets penalized,
Right.
and then the state gets, or the grant funding benefits by not having to pay out as much money, right? Is that?
Has that been verified, or?
No,
is
they're
it
just
subjective?
guessing right now.
But that's all, everything is hypothetical, and we've asked the question, and no one had the correct answer of what it was.
But as of
They just really
2 months ago, they were confident, the one meeting I sat in with you, they were confident that they were going to complete this, and there was no concern.
Josh, and that was the concern the other day, that's exactly where we were at, you know, they didn't show up till November, it was 6 months afterwards. They talked to Scott that they would get this thing done with no problems whatsoever. And the concern that I had the other day is here you waited till the end of March, beginning of April, asking for an extension. You know, and the reasons they had didn't work for the things that were the contract that they signed. You know, so that's
they've had plenty of time to subcontract or find help or do anything else.
Josh, we just went over that. It was at the point it was just going around and around in circles, and you know, the system setup is a little better. Can't say that I would agree with that system, but that's a system that we have.
It's a whole other meeting.
Yeah.
He is running into some legitimate delays with rock, slowing him down digging, but he hasn't presented them in the correct way to the engineer.
But also the thing there was he is having issues with rock and what have you, but the thing there too, he didn't show up till 6 months after the start date. So the issue that he was having, and my point was, if you signed a contract, you knew you had 365 days to complete the contract. Now he's running into issues. If he would have started on time, when he had, or even 3 months prior to, that would have given him a little more time. You know, that's something we all compete against equally, is time. Who makes the best of it?
Right.
The contract doesn't call for the town to be penalized if it goes over, it calls for the contractor.
Right.
So,
is he late because of the rock, or is he
late
because he showed up 6 months late?
Answer is probably yes.
No different, the answer is the disappearing money
That's right.
no one's gonna get.
Yeah.
But I think he has started filling the pipe with water.
On
my
place
street.
is running.
So
You know,
if
that's
you
what
see
they
that,
actually called me
Yep,
today.
I called Martin today because somebody called on Merrill Road and said, hey, there's a lot of water coming out of one of these hoses. So I just wanted to double check and make sure that was normal. I saw it going on down by you, so I'm like, oh, that's a thing.
That's a good sign.
Leading the lines.
Okay, anybody else? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night.
You too.